Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, where you can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships. Whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind, God is concerned about that which concerns you. And that is the reason that we are here with you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which our broadcast is brought to you daily by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer, where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just ordinary water. This is Earth's finest water at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, we thank all of you for your support and for your continued commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, I want to remind everyone to continue encouraging your family, friends, coworkers, and colleagues to tune in to the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. We are Facebook Live. We are YouTube Live at Daily Divine Direction. And we want everyone to stay connected with us throughout the week on our internet radio station, which plays music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year at WKAP Faith Empowerment Radio, which you can reach at WKAPfaith.com. So once again, WKAPfaith.com is where you will hear music that will encourage you, empower you, and inspire you to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. Okay, so you may have seen a little bit. We were a little delayed with getting up today. For some reason, having a little delay in technology, and so we were trying to move around to make sure everything was up and ready to go. And so I thank all of you for your patience and for being tuned in with us, as always, right here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is broadcast every day from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio right here in Wilmington, Delaware. So I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you are considering moving closer to your grandchildren. However, your husband wants to remain where you are, and he wants to be available when they need us, when they need you. That's what you said. You want to know, how can you compromise? So look, let me say this, and I as a grandparent, I understand this. I understand you wanting to spend as much time with your grandchildren as you possibly can. I understand that it's important to you to be close to them. But you got to remember this. You cannot live your life through the life of your children. Now, every grandparent who is an active grandparent, we want to spend as much time with our grandchildren as we possibly can. However, you cannot live your life through your children or your grandchildren. This is the time when, and it's not a matter of being right or wrong, but for this there is no compromise. You have to live your own lives and be available when needed. And spend as much time with them as you desire to spend with them, as often as you can, as long as that fits within the life of the couple. they have their own lives to live. They're going to raise their children their own way. But it doesn't mean you can't be active. It doesn't mean that you can't be present. It doesn't mean, that you cannot. So I'll give you a real example, and it's funny because my wife and I just had this conversation today. So, our grandson will be starting school in the fall. And one of the things we said is we want to be available for those moments that are important in his academic progress. So, if there's a orientation, we'd like to be present. If there's he's going to be entering school in the fall, we'd like to be present on his first day of school. We don't live in the same city, but we're close enough. We're close enough that we could literally, get up early in the morning, make the drive, and they live in New York, but we live close enough that we can get up early in the morning, make the drive, and be there when he starts school. We can do that. It's a 2-hour ride. Your distance is a little further, and that's the reason. Well, not a little further. Your distance is further. That's the reason you're considering moving closer. But your husband's saying, no, let's just be available when they need us. So that's important. As I said, for us, it was a matter of let's make certain that, let's look at the current calendar for the school he's going to be entering. And let's look at what it looks like now so that we can kind of chart out dates, the day school opens, start looking at when they have meetings for parents and grandparents, or whatever we can participate in, we will. But you can't live their lives. You have to allow them to live their own lives. You have to allow them to build their own quality of life. And you have to enjoy your quality of life. So whatever that looks like, if you want to travel because you say you're considering moving closer, and we said in the communication, you're considering moving closer when you retire. I get it. You're So I'll just kind of say this out loud. So you're at one end of Florida, they're at another end of Florida. You have that distance apart. So it'll take you more effort to get there, to do certain things. But you don't necessarily need to live in the same city. You don't need to pack up, relocate, just to be closer to your grandchildren, because I promise you, your grandchildren are going to eventually have their own lives, and their parents are going to have their own lives. You don't want to, and I won't even say disrupt, well, yes I will. You don't want to disrupt your life to intrude in their lives. You get in where you fit in. In other words, as long as they're willing to allow you to participate, you participate where you can. And that's really all your husband is saying to you. Just participate where you can, because of the distance. Now, like I said, for us, the distance isn't really that big of an issue. I mean, we have literally gone one morning or I should say one day in the afternoon, go up, visit them, and come back, have dinner with them, and come back in the evening. So we've done that. We know what that's like for us because of the geographical distance. We can do that. You're not able to do that, but you got to pick and choose where you fit in. Don't disrupt your life for the life of your children and grandchildren. You really cannot do that unless you both, and because you both aren't on that page, unless you both were on the page where you said, okay, we're going to retire, we're going to move from where we are now in Florida to another location in Florida to be closer to our grandchildren. If you're both on that same page, then fine. Do you. But since you're not on that same page and you have a good quality of life, you can still enjoy your quality of life and still spend as much time with your grandchildren as you possibly can. And when I say that, meaning schedule it out. Don't disrupt your quality of life, because you cannot live your life through the life of your children. None of us can. And we have to understand that. God has given us each our own lives to live. We can only be there for our children when they need us to be there. And our grandchildren. That's what we're assigned by God to do. Anything else is just us interfering with what God is doing. So where you're welcome, fit in. And even if you are welcome, make certain that you don't do anything to disrupt the quality of your life. And that's really what your husband is saying right now, because he's just in a different space. His space is, we're going to be retiring soon. We want to, he wants to do some, you alluded to some things in your, made reference to some things in your communication. You said he wants to buy an RV and drive to different places. Yeah, that's some people's ambition. And some of those drives, he may stop and see his grandchildren. When they're on break, he may take them with him. But you've got to live your lives. You've got to live your lives and let your children, your in-laws, and your grandchildren live their own lives. That way, everyone can build their own quality of life and everyone can be happy. And you might be saying, well, that's not going to make me happy, but in the long run, in the long term, it's going to make you will be happy, because you'll have peace when everyone has a great quality of life. This segment of the broadcast has been brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill. At T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. This segment is also brought to you by PorscheAmerica.com. If you are in the market for a Porsche, one of the finest high-performance automobiles ever manufactured, go to PorscheAmerica.com. You will have the opportunity to virtually build out a Porsche you desire to own. And if you're in our area, you can go to PorscheDelaware.com. Ask to speak to Mike Didio, General Manager of PorscheDelaware.com. He will make certain that someone assists you in selecting the Porsche you desire to own. And if you currently own a Porsche, one of the finest high-performance automobiles ever manufactured, and you're in our area, go to PorscheDelaware.com. Ask to speak to Mike Adams, Service Manager, PorscheDelaware.com. He will make certain that someone schedules an appointment for you, that your vehicle is picked up at your home or office and returned to you when your service is completed. And in the interim, they will provide you with a loaner vehicle to ensure that you can continue your day while your vehicle is being serviced. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that memories from a past relationship keep floating through your mind. You realize how you messed things up and you wish you could undo what was done. So let me just say this to you. First and foremost, the fact that, the memories floating through your mind, not uncommon for some people. One of the things you have to understand is the fact that you realize how you messed things up means that it's called maturity. It's literally called part of your maturation process. It's called maturity. It means that you have gotten to a place where you understand the mistakes that we all make in relationships. And everyone has done it. We all have made some mistakes in relationships. Although some relationships were not good for us, we all made some mistakes in them. So you have to understand that although you've matured, there's nothing you can do about what's been done. There's nothing you can do about your attitude in a relationship that was prior to your current state of mind. Your attitude is different now than it was when you were in your 20s, and your attitude is different now than when you were in your early 30s. You are in your late 30s now. You've matured, and you understand that there were some things that you could have done differently in the relationship, but you also have to realize you were doing what you were taught to do. But now you can undo that. That's what you can undo. And you've done that. Your attitude is not the same today as it was then. Your attitude, your state of mind is not the same as it was then. You know, that state of mind where I can do without him. I don't need a man. I can do without a man. I don't have to have you. And you push them away. But now you realize, you know, that's part of maturity. When you get to the place where you say to yourself, that's the one that got away. You know, but if we all look back over our lives just for a moment and we say to ourselves, I'm better today than I was yesterday. I'm better today than I was 3 years ago. I'm better today than I was 5 years ago. I'm better today than I was 10 years ago. You'll find that it's really not the one that got away. You weren't ready for that one, or they weren't ready for you. But now, because of maturity, because of the maturation process of life, you now are ready for something much greater. You are ready to embark on a journey that will allow you to build something great, a great relationship, a great quality of life. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be stuck in the past. The past is just that. The past is the past. Your present is the present. Your future are your possibilities. We live in the present. We build for the future. We focus on what we can do to make the future great. And we work to that end. So now that you realize how you mess some things up, okay. And let me expound on this for all of our listeners and viewers. If you were hanging out in the clubs in your 20s, and you're now in your late 30s, and you weren't hanging out in the clubs in your early 30s, but you were maybe hanging out with your girlfriends, and you found that, you know, there's some inner circle fighting, backstabbing, you know, just whatever craziness was going on in your early 30s. And now in your late 30s, you're no longer experiencing that. All of that is part of the maturation process. All of those things that were disrupting your relationships in the past no longer exist. So now you can be a better version of yourself. And you can become a better version of yourself, which is all each of us should desire to do. Become better versions of ourselves. Become the best version of ourselves. Work to that end. What you have undone is you've made a change in the attitude that you had in your 20s and your early 30s. You've made a change in your behavior from your 20s and your early 30s. You have made a change in your circle that existed in your 20s and your early 30s. You're not hanging out, people, places, and things. So you eliminated much of that. That's what you've undone. And now what you're going to do is become the best version of you that you can possibly become. You're going to do things differently that will allow you to get to a place where you won't have to allow a past relationship, the memories of that to float through your mind. You'll be able to enjoy the memories that you're making now that fill your mind with joy and pleasure. Anything for any one of us that's in the past is just that. It's past. And progress doesn't dwell on past. Progress meets the present, and progress pushes for the future. Pushes the possibilities for the future. So now that you've gotten to this place, this level of maturity that you now are in, it's going to allow you to be in a relationship that will thrive, that will be healthy, that will be vibrant, that will be successful. And that's what each and every one of us should desire to accomplish. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, stop in at their retail stores. They have everything a man could possibly need. And if you are not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And the White Company, located in London, the UK, they also have stores. They also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. So if you're in New York, stop in at the retail store. They have everything you could possibly need. Home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. And if you're not in New York, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. So I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you are finding that people in your environment have their own agenda. You said family and friends both have their own agenda and their own motives for what they're doing and for what they desire to do. You said, however, it does not line up with what you're trying to accomplish. So, again, people, places, and things. So those are categories that we put things in to make certain that we have a clear understanding of what's before us and what's present with us. Don't make their agenda your agenda. That's the one thing the one takeaway for you. Don't make their agenda your agenda. You have your own agenda. Your own agenda. You know exactly what it is. You're not trying to involve other people in your agenda. You're not trying to take your agenda into anybody else's environment. You have your own agenda. You have your own method of doing things, your own methodology. Stay on your course. Focus on your agenda. Focus on your methodologies. Improve your methodologies if you can improve them. If it's not something you can improve right now, just focus on doing things by your own methods. Always line up your methods with God's way. Always line up your agenda with God's will. If you do that, you're going to be in that, what I like to often call, you're going to be in that sweet spot. That sweet spot allows you to be in the presence of favor. That's really what it is. It's that moment where favor surrounds you. It's the sweet spot where you can be at peace and at rest. So I like to use an analogy. So one of the things that happens every night for me when I go to bed at night, after my prayer, after, from my push-ups, my prayer, my nightly hygiene, after all of that, I get in bed, and one of the last things I do is I first say how thankful I am to be able to lie down and rest, be at peace. And then I start to pray again. So remember, I've already had my nightly prayer, done my push-ups, done my nightly hygiene. But then I start to pray, and very quickly I fall asleep. And the reason is because I'm in that sweet spot. So, I sleep with, my wife always encourages me to do this too, but I like to sleep with a lot of pillows. And it helps me to rest comfortably. So I lay up on the pillows, and there's that one spot that, and I'm kind of letting you into my world a little bit, but so, obviously we rotate our mattress continuously, so there's not just one spot on the mattress, but it's that wherever you are on the bed, that one spot where you get into that sweet spot, where you're so comfortable on the mattress that your body is an even rhythm, your breathing is good, you feel like your body is about to rest, and then you go into that sleep and you find that place of peace. Well, it's the same thing with your agenda and your methodology in life. You got to get in that sweet spot. You got to get in that place where you can rest in the Lord, that place where you can be at peace and just do what God has assigned you to do. You don't have to take on anybody else's agenda. You don't have to take on anybody else's motives. Their agenda is their agenda, their motives are their motives. But if it doesn't line up with what you're trying to accomplish, you don't have to take that on. That's not your responsibility. People will always have their own agenda. People will always want you to do things their way. But you have to make certain that what you're doing is accomplishing what God has purposed for you to do. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you do that, you'll stay in, we often talk about in the Christian faith, rest in the Lord. You'll stay in that peace of God that surpasses all understanding. You'll have perfect peace in your life. And that's what we all desire to experience. And that allows us to begin the process of entering into the fullness of God. So I want to encourage you to stay the course. Don't allow people to push their own agenda. Don't allow them to disrupt the plan that God has for you and what God wants to accomplish both in you and through you. Because that's an interesting place also. There's two things that God wants to do, and that is he wants to accomplish his will in you, and he also wants to accomplish his will through you by using you to fulfill his will in the life of his people. Today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast 3D has been brought to you by Fiji Water. A taste of paradise will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. Once again, this is not just ordinary water. This is Earth's finest water at FijiWater.com. May God bless you today. May God keep his face turned towards you. May God give you peace that surpasses all understanding. Have a great day today. I look forward to being in your viewing environment tomorrow, your listening and viewing environment tomorrow. Have a great day, and may God continue to bless you. Remember, we're Facebook Live, YouTube Live,